12 weeks that we've just gone through. So I sat with that and I really liked it. I liked the summary. I liked the review. I liked going through that. But then God just kind of sat me there for a while, and we sat together and we just went deeper with some of these things. And I'm like, God, what do you want from us now? We've done these 12 weeks. And for those of us that are like, this is what I want, what does that mean? So these 12 steps are the journey to a transformed life. If you go through those, or you sit with those things that we've talked about, the way God works in our life, what he calls us to, he's not calling us just to clean up that old life and make it look a little better. Like, he's calling us to a radically new life. He's given us a brand new life. He's not just like, here, give me the old one, I'll launder it a bit and put it back on. And I think we sometimes think about it that way. So I just titled this one, Life Transformed, because if your life doesn't look transformed to other people, just revisit step 1 and go through those again, because if you really meet Jesus in your life shouldn't be left unchanged. There should be something about you that is so profoundly altered and changed, because it's no longer driven by self and ego, but by our Father Creator, God. So I'm going to be reading in 2 Corinthians 5. I'm going to read 16 through 20. I'm reading out of the Message version, so if you wonder why the wording's a bit differently, that is why. It just says it in today's language. So you can follow along in the Pew Bible, but it's going to be worded differently. Because of this decision, we don't evaluate people by what they have or how they look. We looked at the Messiah that way once and we got it all wrong, as you know. We certainly don't look at him that way anymore. Now we look inside, and what we see is that anyone united with the Messiah gets a fresh start and is created new. That old life is gone, not laundered and put back on. It's gone, and a new life emerges. Look at it. All of this comes from the God who settled the relationship between us and him, and then called us to settle our relationships with each other. God put the world square with himself through the Messiah, giving the world a fresh start by offering forgiveness of sins. God has given us the task of telling everyone what he is doing. We're Christ's representatives. God uses us to persuade men and women to drop their differences and enter into God's work of making things right between them. We're speaking for Christ himself now. Become friends with God, because he's already a friend with you. I love having God as a friend, because I didn't experience that before in the life that I came from, because I was more afraid of God, and the idea of ever calling God my friend was unthinkable. He's God the Creator. He's God the Almighty. He's God the one that's eternally disappointed because I'm always getting it wrong, and how wrong I was, because he is everything but that. He is pure love himself, inside and out. He doesn't look at you with disappointment. He looks at you with the eyes of love that a father has for a precious, precious child. Kids are naughty sometimes. Discipline is sometimes part of the journey because we love them, not because we're angry and we hate them. And God is the same. If he allows discipline in your life, he's not punishing you. It's like, child, I love you. I love you. We just need to turn this around. So we're going to get into this. Let's see where God goes with this. He has taken me all over the place this week, and see where this life transformed goes and what it should look like. The problem so often becomes We're human beings at like a step 1, a step 2, a step 3, because it makes it easy, right? When you're given the playbook of how to do it. I want to go to heaven, so if I can just read the book and fill out the checklist and answer the test and get all the questions right, I should be good to go, and then I do my thing. So now we have a checklist of things that we do, because you have to check it off and perform and be a good person and do good deeds and do all the things, and look at me doing all the things. I love people who do good things. I love people who serve. But if you're feeling you are doing that out of a sense of obligation because of salvation, it doesn't work that way. We so easily can fall into those legalistic rules and laws traps. And even those of us who have gone through the sober thing, that's no fun, getting sober and then staying that way. And then we get introduced to recovery, where it's even harder work, because we really have to take a good look at ourselves inside and out. And we rip off masks, and we have to admit things, and then we have to own things, and then we get to the other side and we're in recovery, and we're like, so glad that's done. And sometimes we can get a little comfortable in that, and when we come alongside other people that are struggling, we become people who, can you believe that? Can you believe what they did? Look at what they're doing. Look at how they're living. We can't fall into the trap that we're doing it real good now. We got all the answers. I need to tell you how to clean up your street because you're getting it wrong. And all of a sudden our ego is back and running the show. We put on those masks of, look at me, my name's Heidi and I'm 2 years in recovery and I haven't had a drink in 2 years and I'm doing great. You know what? My name is Heidi. I haven't had a drink in 2 years, but I've sure had times where I really wanted to. I have days where I don't want to show up and do it. I have days I fall flat on my face. And I don't hide that anymore. I am gloriously, epically transparent because Jesus already took care of my mess. He just asked me to get up and keep going. I worked really hard to take that veil off. They talk about that veil, and I'll give you the backstory on that. The veil reference is when Moses walked up that mountain and received the law from God, and God wrote this law on these stone tablets, and when he came down, because he'd been in the glory of God, his persona was so bright, like people couldn't even look at him, so we covered his face because it just was too much. Because Jesus hadn't come. There was that kind of separation between people and God. They needed law to know right from wrong. So these people looked at Moses covering that veil, and they're like, oh, he's all shiny under that. But the secret thing is that they didn't see that light faded. And then you have to go back. You have to keep the law. You have to keep the thing. And Moses had to go back to God. And that brightness, that's what that veil represents. That's our old life. That veil that hides that, you know what, I'm not real bright right now. I'm not getting it real right, but look at me. Look at me. We're called to a life where we don't ever put a veil on. Why? Because Jesus has come. Because the work has already been completed. Because everything you've done wrong has already been paid for and covered. Because you don't have to pay for it anymore. You don't have to live a life of suffering. You don't have to live in despair and suffering right now because he already paid for that. Even if it doesn't feel like it right now. You don't have to turn to old ways of trying to be good enough, of trying to earn love, of just like, God, can I go to heaven too? Like, I know I've really screwed it up. Like, that's like, child, I love you. Look at you. You're perfect. Every look at her, he says that about all of us. Every single last one of us in here. He's so proud of you. He doesn't look at you with shame. So what are we hiding from? Because as soon as you turn fully to God, turn around and don't cover that light with a veil. Because he's giving you exactly what it is the people around you need. Don't hide that light from people. Don't hide the falls and the stumbles where God picked you up and helped you keep going. That's the stuff that he uses to work through you. I so often thought that God uses the people who really got it figured out, the well-studied, the ones that got the master's degree, the real high theologians that have read all the books and know all the answers. And then I found out they don't know all the answers. They may have read all the books. They might know some pretty heavy Greek and Latin. They can exegete and do all this stuff. There's some words there you can look up. They can tell you the Greek and they can tell you the this, but if you were to say, can you tell me what has God done in your life? Tell me how God changed your life. I'm always curious to what the answer is for that, because we should be ready before God and man with an answer to that. Like, let me tell you what he's done in my life, because that's sharing the gospel. I used to think I had to go to church and sit in church to hear from somebody way more educated from me who God is and how to get to him in order to be saved and go to heaven, only to find out we don't need a go-between. There's not a person that we have to sit under to hear from God. Because the moment you turn to God and say yes, you are filled with him. He gives you the Spirit. Why? To give you understanding, to give you answers to those questions. If you just sit quietly long enough to listen, he always answers. It's just not always what we want the answer to be. And some of us are really feeling that. I'm feeling that. But it's still his answer. And then we get to choose, do we trust him with that? You either do or you don't. Because you can fight back, you can be angry, you can be bitter, because that's not the answer I want. I want it to look like this. I don't want this. And God's like, but the view I have sees what's on the other side of this. This is part of it for a reason. It's not without a reason. Nothing is without a reason. We just don't have the view that he has. That scroll, the scroll represents, remember I told you about Moses when he walked up and he had those tablets where God with his finger writes the law on there, the 10 commandments. And the first set got broken because Moses was very unimpressed what he found when he came down, and then got another. But that's what people seeking God used to have to go to, laws and rules. They had the condensed 10 commandments, but read the Old Testament. If anybody's read in there, some of those laws I know you have, you are not, and you know there are rules and laws down to what you wear, what you eat, how it's prepared, all of it. Don't mix your fabrics. Like my pants would be a no bueno. You don't wear these because those were mixed fabrics. There's reasons for it that I am not going into, but I'm actually researching that. It is profound what God reveals when you listen. There were reasons for every single law and rule he gave. Jesus had not yet come to atone. They needed to know how to live, and the only way of knowing that was through the written law. The only way they could go to God was to go to that priest who went into the most holy place in that temple. There was one place on earth that God dwelt in. That's what they had. That's not what we have. This is not the only place where God is. The church down the road is not the only place where God is. The church over there is not the only place God is. And sometimes we bicker like we think we have the market on having God. When we forget that his church isn't that building and it isn't that denomination. It's living, breathing human beings. It's every single one of you in this space. Every single one of you. He's not calling us to live by that letter of the law, keep all the rules and regulations and get stoned if you get it wrong kind of mentality that they used to live in. And I'm so profoundly grateful that I get to live in the freedom from the law. Because no longer are we bound by that, because we've been given God's Spirit inside of us. So what does that give you? Freedom. I sat on that. How many people, when they think about, like this Jesus life, how often have you thought, it's like, I'm not ready I don't know if I'm ready to give up the fun things I like doing though. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like, I had to give that up. But have you ever stepped to the other side going, you mean I get that? That's what I get? For real? Like, I'm loved like that? I don't have to pay for anything I've done? That's mine? What do I have to do for that? Give me the rule book. Love God and love people. Okay, where's the rest of it? No, that's it. Love God and love people. That's as complicated as church gets. Because how do you treat people you love? What kind of problems would be solved by love? What problems in your life would be solved if every single person in your life loved like that? I would not have a single problem at all in my life if love was the universal 100% constant. Because God in his very essence is love. So we have residing in us the very spirit that is nothing but love. I love that we're reading these passages because it's written by Paul, and what an amazing example of this. If you don't know who Paul was, the job that he had before, he was a very highly educated religious leader. And if you think you've known some people who really love some laws and rules, well, you didn't meet Paul. He was an enforcer of said rules and laws, and boy, would he hunt down those followers of this Jesus character that they're saying rose from the dead. What's this way of living? What do you mean, no more law, no more going to the temple? What do you... And he actively persecuted them, imprisoned them, killed them. That's Paul. That's what he did. Letter of the law, Paul. You got to follow the rules, black and white. Paul. How many of you have been in churches that felt like that? I have. Rules. All rules. What happens if you don't do one right? But what happened to Paul when Jesus got him? He was on his way to get more when his conversion happened. And Jesus himself spoke to him and asked him, why are you persecuting me? And Paul's entire life was never the same. So Paul, the feared, highly educated leader, we need to remember this man was respected and known. People came to listen to him and learn from him. He was that kind of leader. He wasn't just one of those, people that taught me elementary school. Thank you, elementary teachers. You're amazing. No. He was like that theologian, you know, the professor that you go to get the education from. And now he's a servant of Jesus. And we talk about what that looks like, that Jesus life and how you serve in that way, and that it's not a law and rule driven life. It's a spirit filled relationship life. I imagine it was incredibly difficult for Paul to let go of those old ways. Can you imagine? When you come from that kind of a background and all of a sudden, hey guys, I'm going to join you. First of all, nobody wants you to join them because they're all scared of you. Because, hey, you're the dude that killed us and put us in prison. We're kind of nervous. I would be. I sure would be. I don't fault those Christians for questioning the reality of this. You mean God, that guy is coming? Like, open my doors and yes, that guy is coming. Open your doors and let him in. He's going to learn from you. Paul had to deal with a lot to be a follower of Jesus, because I know that he knew what people were thinking when he came. He had to trade in his scrolls for freedom. I at times wonder if that's that longing for like rules and all that kind of stuff, because I'm sure he was drawn to that. I sometimes wonder if that's God, can you take that from my life? Like, is that the thorn in his flesh, that struggle with that whole laws and rules way? Learning how to live in complete freedom, loving everyone. Jews didn't like Samaritans. They didn't like non-Jews. And now Paul is going to actively travel to bring Jesus to the people who don't know him. I was glad to sit for a time and just think about Paul and the reality of his life. I hadn't thought about it that way. Part of me was like, oh yeah, he was the after disciple. He wasn't one of the original misfits. He was that spit polished professional. I discounted how much suffering he had to go through because he got it from both sides. Judged from both sides. Nobody wanted him. He was no longer accepted by the law and the rules crowd. And the Jesus followers were looking at him like, no, you can sit by him. I don't want to sit by him. Don't feel like going to jail today. I don't really want to die today. That's what Paul had to deal with. And then have you heard about the travels he went on and what happened? You know, he didn't have it easy. The man, who I'm sure was wealthy and had it made, I'm sure nobody closed their doors to him at one point, now experienced a whole lot of suffering and loss. Close to losing life, and then how about some prison for him? The very place he used to send people was the place he wrote most of what we have in the New Testament. From prison, from jail. That was Paul. I look at him so very differently than I used to. I used to look at him like he would have been like those ministers I used to have, like he was that tight. No, he wasn't. This was a man broken and humble because he was brought face to face with what exactly everything he had done. To what he had done to God himself by chasing down and harming those who followed him. So what do? We all have problems, right? As soon as sin came into the world, life was one enormous problem. And humanity has forever been seeking a solution to all that ails us. We've been suffering from the get-go with loss and sin and hard life. And man, I can only imagine what this planet looked like before death came. Because do we remember when death came to humans because of the fall? It came to this planet also. Nothing God originally created was created to die. I sit and I think about that because this world that I see around me now has some of the most astonishingly beautiful sights. And that's sights of a dead and dying planet. Can you even imagine what it's going to look like when it's brought back to its eternal perfection? Where death doesn't touch a single blade of grass or a single leaf if we have grass and leaves. I don't know what heaven's going to look like. I can't wait to find out. I'm not in a hurry to die, but I'm not afraid to. But we have a problem because we're here and broken and sinful, and Jesus was that answer and that solution, but that means something for us, and that's the point I want to get to. If you've truly chosen Jesus, your life truly has to look differently in the way you live it with the people around you. Bitterness, hatred, anger, anxiety, depression. Those are things that we have to let go of because Jesus already paid that price. The problem comes, we have to let go of it when people on the other side of things aren't willing to. I am not going to sit here and say, but that's easy to do. If you have Jesus, that's so easy. I promise you, I'm not going to lie to you. It is not easy to do. I love people. I just really sometimes struggle and have to really ask God to help me love some people. Because I fail at times. And I think I'm justified. Well, look at them though. Look at their behavior. Look how they're acting. But look what they did. Look what they said. What is that? It's just, don't look at me. It couldn't possibly be me. I just reacted because they did that. And I'm saying that because I'm guilty of doing that. I don't like taking the blame. I don't like saying it's me. I'm responsible for the way I reacted. But I'm the only one that's responsible for me. I'm not responsible for how someone else chooses to act on the other side. I am only responsible for my own self. And if you don't think that's freeing, try it. Let go of all expectation for those on the other side. Because having expectations means there's ego involved and you want it your way. And I say that knowing those are hard words to hear sometimes because I'm telling you, I have a family situation that I really want to look a different way. I want my personal family situation to look a different way, and God knows that. And He still says no. He continues to say no, and it's been 30 years. 30. I was quite shocked when I actually sat and realized that. 30 years of no. I had to let go of my expectation and my want and say yes to what God has given me now. Man, that's hard for me to do some days. But then there's other days where I find myself saying, God, thank you for the gift of hard-learned lessons. And it was even shocking to me to say those words because I know what I mean when I say those words. Some of you know my life story. Some of you. I would have told you it's impossible to have gratitude for every moment your life has taken. I would have fought tooth and nail against somebody that would have said you're going to be grateful for every moment of your life someday, and there's no way. You absolutely must not know my life story, then there is no way I will ever be grateful for that. I was profoundly grateful when a hurt person sat down in front of me and I knew how to have a conversation because it was a shared experience. Do you think I wasn't grateful then? Because where else were they going to go? And then it starts to make sense why we're allowed to experience what we experience, because those things often are the things that we use to say, God is awful. Can you believe it? Look what he allows to happen. If God loves you, that wouldn't happen in your life. And then sometimes there's people's like, I must be so horrible because God is punishing me. Or we choose to completely walk away because of the other. I'm not going to love a God that's like that. He could make all of this better. Well, do we stop to realize it's not God's fault? Did God sin? Oh, that's right. That's right. So us broken, sinful ones are telling Creator God how to do it. I do that. Where the Spirit is, there is freedom. I'm going to read this, and we're just going to talk about this for just a little bit because it's all about this. It's the freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:12 through 18. With that kind of hope to excite us, nothing holds us back. Unlike Moses, we have nothing to hide. He wore a veil so the children of Israel wouldn't notice that the glory was fading away. And they didn't notice. They didn't notice it then, and they don't notice it now. They don't notice that there's nothing left behind that veil. Even today, when the proclamations of that old bankrupt government are read out, they can't see through it. Only Christ can get rid of the veil so they can see for themselves that there's nothing there. Whenever, though, they turn to face God as Moses did, God removes that veil, and there they are, face to face, and they suddenly recognize that God is a living, personal presence. He's not a piece of chiseled stone. And when God is personally present, a living spirit, that old constricting legislation is recognized as obsolete. We're free of it. All of it. There is nothing between us and God. Our faces are shining with the brightness of His face. And so we too are transfigured much like the Messiah, our lives gradually becoming brighter and more beautiful as God enters our lives. And we become like Him. So where is the Spirit? Where is the Spirit in your life? Do you have it in here? Have you asked for it? Have you experienced that? Because that's where the freedom is. That Spirit that's given and within. That's where the liberation comes from. The crushing weight, obsession with self, the death of ego, all of that leaves when the Spirit moves in. Those questions you have hanging over your life, that indecision, I don't know which way to turn or what to do in this situation, sit with that Spirit. He'll tell you. He'll tell you. Who wants to be liberated from feelings of failure? Has anybody here ever felt like a failure? He's offering it to you. You can be free right now. You're not a failure. You are not a failure. How about, how heavy does it get trying to keep all the rules and do everything right? Does it get heavy? Rules and rules and rules and trying to do the right thing and trying to do the right thing and trying to do the right thing because I'm going to earn it, I'm going to earn it, I'm going to earn it, I'm going to earn it. And what happens? How long do you hold up under that before you're crushed? You can be free of that today, right now, too, if you're not already. It's the last one that gets harder, the ego-driven self. That one we're more resistant to get rid of. We couldn't like ourselves. Not that bad. Underneath all the stuff. Once you really get down to it, I'm pretty good. You just got to look underneath all the stuff. I'm great. We should be people that when we get down underneath all this stuff, they see Jesus, not us. Where our desire is not that we get ahead, but that everybody around us gets ahead. That our desire is not to be served, but to serve. Because we like being on pedestal sometime, recognition. I know I did such a good job on that project, didn't I? It's pretty good. Yeah. Those pedestals get knocked over quickly. I promise you, God will see to it your pedestal gets knocked over. Mine's been knocked over a lot. It's not pretty when you fall. People are there to watch, I promise. They will see it. All those epic things you do that nobody gets to see, and you just have to tell them like how awesome and epic and great it was. Like, man, I was awesome. But that epic failure, don't we usually have an audience to see that? Yeah, down we went, crashing and burning. That ego-driven self, and I had to let go of a lot more ego when I realized my hanging on to my anger, my sense of injustices done to me, wrongs done to me. My worry and my fear and the stress that I often find myself in. I've spent all week trying to get out from behind the fact that that's all ego. That's all me. Thinking of self. But anxiety, why wouldn't you be anxious? Have you seen this world? It's crazy out there. There's a lot to be worried about. There's a little bit of anxiety when there hasn't really been an income in a couple years. You worry. Those are things to worry about. Stressful. How do you, yeah, really? Really? It's got to prove for me to sit in anxiety over these things? Because God promised, I will provide all your wants or needs. There's a big difference between those two things, right? Wants and needs. I would really prefer at times that God fulfilled my want list. Because he has this need list of things I didn't know I needed. Like learning discernment. The ever famous learning patience because you asked God to teach you patience.
We don't pray for that.
I know everybody's favorite thing. I'm actually grateful that I asked God to teach me patience. And boy, I got knocked down a lot. I'm very profoundly grateful. I asked God for discernment. That's what I've asked for this year. Sometimes I wish I would have waited a year. Because God will give you the opportunity to learn it. As Christians, we can't go into this thinking that because we've said yes and we're spirit-filled, just like that, everything is fabulous. It's so good. I am leaving this awfulness behind, and my charmed life is waiting because I'm sure they're building that mansion that's right around the corner because God's going to make me wealthy. Everything's going to be provided me in the car I'm going to drive. It's going to be a 1968 Mustang. God does not work that way. Those are not the riches that God brings to most people. And if he has, it's not because he's given them to you to keep for yourself only. All that we've been given, we've been asked to share. The whole purpose of this is because on earth here, before we all get to go home, how do people see God? Where is he? If he's in us, isn't that where he sees him? So if you're walking around going, yep, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus, and you are treating people horribly, what are you telling people about God? If we are fathers or mothers who harm and abuse our children, what are we teaching our children about Father God? I can tell you as a child who was given the wrong image of Father, what a struggle that was to lean into the beautiful picture of God our Father, Abba. The idea of God as Father made him even more frightening to me. He's more ready to punish me, more ready to be mad, more ready to tell me how I failed and got it wrong. That's not what Abba means. Abba is that father that just beams from ear to ear when they see their little one learning how to walk and they're falling down and getting up and walking in, they're falling down and their arms are all out and they don't have it right, and that father is just beaming, and I know you've done that, and I know you've done that, and I know you've done that. I know that you have. And then you just scoop them up, and it's just like, man, they're walking, and you can't wait to tell us like they took their first steps. And everybody's like, that was the worst walk, and they don't know how to walk. Yes, they did. Look, and there's 2 steps. They're walking now. And you're so excited. That's Abba. That's who Abba God is, who loves you. Like, man, I've had a hard day. Can I just curl up in your lap and fall asleep? Abba. That's who he is. God is not the broken human fathers that some of us have. He is a Father God that we have that shines through us. That's why we're given the Spirit, so as we walk and navigate through this earth, people that may know us in our stories will look at us and say, how? Like, I know what happened to you. Like, how? Tell me, what happened in your life? Maybe some of you in recovery have crossed paths with people from the past that knew the old you, that might look at you and say, man, you've changed. And how often have you said, man, God's amazing? Let me tell you what Jesus did with my life. life. You're not going to believe this. Where we're not embarrassed or ashamed because of our past, but we get excited because, man, doesn't that tell you how far I've come? You don't need willpower. You don't need more willpower. Try harder, unless you need something fixed, and you call willpower over here. You don't have to try harder. Try harder. Try harder. Go to Abba. Abba, I epically screwed this one up. I've really got it wrong. I know you did. It's all right. It's already taken care of. And then live your life that way, knowing it's been taken care of. It's already been paid for. All you have to do is just live your life knowing that God's got you, that He's taken care of it, that it's already forgiven. Because if you're living like that, you're not actively trying to do things that have to be forgiven. We're not the sin more so there's more grace kind of people. That's not what following Jesus is. It's not a, well, He paid for it, so just do whatever you want. Because what is that saying to Jesus about the gift He gave you? Thanks, Jesus, for the free pass. Got a hall pass for everything. Those dreaded words, I don't know you. But God, I sat in church. And I did the thing, like the water. Yeah, like I even went all the way under. I got soaked. Like I got super baptized. I didn't just get the sprinkle. I got super baptized, God, and I volunteered. Like I made some casseroles and ham buns. And then I vacuumed or I fixed this. God, look at what I've been doing. I've been doing all this stuff. Did you tell people about me? Did you ever tell people what I've done in your life? Because that's what you were supposed to do. In all that serving, did you remember me? Or were you writing down all the service things you've done? Look what I've done. Or did you see it as an opportunity to be His hands and feet? Because remember, Jesus, the one who paid it all, who is God Himself, sat down and washed filthy, dirty feet. Mine. Yours. Every person on this planet that ever existed and will exist. Let me wash your feet. Think of somebody you just really look up to. Somebody that, if I had the opportunity to meet this person, that would be amazing. Your hero, that star, that singer, that athlete, that epic hero that you have. And the first thing they said when they gave you, how can I serve you? Would you be like, what? Like you'd be falling all over yourself like, I'm never gonna wash. Where they scribbled a name and then moved on. You have your Creator God sitting at your feet washing them. Think about that. When you think somebody's beneath you. Who here deserved to have Jesus sitting, washing their feet? Because Jesus was less than them. Because that was a job that was reserved for the lowest of the low, slaves and servants of a household. You got that job, you knew it meant you were worth the least. Your value as a human being was deemed the least. There is nobody in this household lower than you. And Jesus willingly said, that's me. That's me. And that's why I say, If your life doesn't look radically different, you haven't met Jesus yet. And that's why I keep saying it, because it's that important. Because if you're not living a foot-washing life, you haven't met him. If you're more worried about what people are doing wrong and how they're doing it and how they responded or didn't respond or any of those other things, you haven't met Jesus for real yet. She knows. Because then you're going to find a joy in figuratively washing the feet of other people that come to you, of sitting with them in their messiness to listen, to understand, so you know how to love them. Not so you know how to punish them or tell them how they did it wrong or how they need to clean up and do better. Our job is to meet them where they're at so we know how to love them best. All of us. Our faces reflecting like mirrors the brightness of God. You ever met somebody on fire for Jesus? I'm going to say Jimmy. Those of you who know Jimmy know exactly what I'm talking about. What do you see on that face? See what it says right there? The brightness of God, your face reflecting like mirrors the brightness of God. Ask Jimmy about Jesus once and tell me you don't see the brightness of God shining through that face. There is a joy that is unmistakable. Like he gets giddy, like he almost dances in place. Giddy. I wish the whole world was filled with people like that. The simple, pure joy this simple man has in the knowledge of what Jesus did for him.
Joy is the best kind.
Joy is the best kind. I love God moments. But when I read that, that face came to mind immediately. Jimmy, if you're watching, thank you for your shiny God face. But everywhere he goes, you see it. I have not seen him without that, and that challenges me to live simply and humbly, like be a Jimmy. What would Jimmy do? Smile and just be joy-filled. He doesn't worry about a lot of that stuff anymore. Why? Jesus got a hold of our... Because God literally and figuratively saved his life. Because he shouldn't be here alive and living today. He got a whole new opportunity to live like sober and in recovery. I want to be that for people. I want to be somebody that they're like, I felt like I knew Jesus when I was with her. I felt loved. I felt safe. I felt cared about. I felt wanted. I felt grace and acceptance and mercy. I want that. But that's what God expects us to live our life doing for people. Being those things for people. I'm going to wrap up with this. Take some time with God and invite that spirit in and listen. Ask God to remove the veil. Ask God to remove every barrier that keep you from exuberantly, there's a word, living joyfully because Jesus saved you. Ask God to take away your fear of loving everyone. And that doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. It never means you have to be a doormat. It never means you have to go back for more abuse, ever. But it doesn't mean you get to hate people who have harmed you. But lean into him. Take the time to talk with him, which means you have to listen, not just talk. Remember, we talked about that prayer. It's often a laundry list, that honey-do list. Here you go, fix it. Boom, 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 boom. We've handed it to God. Here's all my problems. Make it better. Thank you. Amen. All done and walked away, and now we're mad because our list didn't get checked off. No, how about meet God? Sit with God. Say, God, I'm ready to listen. Show me what you want me to do. And God, please give me a heart of love. If you ever wonder if you're doing it wrong, am I getting it right? Am I doing it wrong? What's the right way? It's simple. What is the motive of your heart? The true, honest. You and yourself in a mirror. Look at yourself. The actual motive of your heart. Is it because you loved or because you wanted something for yourself? That's your answer. If it's done out of love, stop worrying. You're not doing it wrong. If you're motivated because you're trying to earn, you want recognition, you're doing it wrong. Freedom. The most beautiful lesson God gave me when I came back to Him was learning what that freedom was. I kept waiting, like, what is it? What is it going to be? What is this freedom that He said? The answer He gave me, you don't have to worry about who you love. You don't have to worry about what other people are doing. You don't have to worry if you're loving the wrong people. Just love them all. What? But aren't Christians supposed to not like those people? Oh, when did I say that? Who did I not die for? This is what I'm ending on. Who did Jesus not die for? That's who you can hate. If Jesus didn't die for them, you are free to hate them. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him shall be saved. For God so loved the world. Anyone who believes. There's not a list of regulations and rules. It's saying, do you believe in Him? Then rest easy. Rest easy. And be a Jenny. And with that, we'll close.